So you're on your computer and you realize that there is an exe file running in the background that you think it's taking up a little bit of memory and it's a little suspicious, or maybe something detects it. But we're going to go ahead and find this in the background processes. So for our purposes, we see that it is clearly labeled as a keylogger. Now, typically you might see it labeled something more malicious, and not as malicious, but something more secretive, right? Something to hide, like Microsoft Store. Make the user think that there's nothing going on. So if we go ahead and see that it's being ran, for now we're gonna go ahead and just go ahead and pick up some logs. So we can go ahead and go to gmail.com. Let's go ahead and just give it some fake emails. We can go ahead and give it and then give it a fake password, something like that. And then we'll go ahead and do a YouTube login as well. Maybe last we'll just type in some junk. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and just try and log into UTEP. It's actually down here. Okay, and just for purposes, we're going to go ahead and end the task. So, upon seeing that it's an exe file, this is where we can go ahead and begin trying to reverse engineer it. And so when you go ahead and open it on Ghidra, and we're going to go ahead and just take a look at defined strings. So we can go ahead, go to Window, Define Strings. And let's see, we go through a little bit. Failed to extract. Ooh, we see a lot of pyconfig, pyprint, pyunit. So we see a lot of Python going on here. And so what we can assume from this is that it's more than likely an exe file that was done with a Python, file. It was compiled like that, the PyCompiler. So now we can go ahead and try and extract that. So we go ahead back to Task Manager, and well, we just ended it, but we can go ahead and find the location of it. If we started it up again, we can see it, and we can go ahead and go to Open File Location. There we go. So we go ahead and find Open File Location, and we see that specifically it's in this roaming, this app data. And so that's usually what a lot of malicious code will be, just running in this background app area that nobody ever gonna really check. And so if we go ahead and get the exe file, and we have it set up already, but we're gonna go ahead and drag it to a different folder, just so we can go ahead and analyze it, because we want it to be with PyExtractor. So go ahead and extract it. Make sure I'm in the right directory. Go ahead and extract it. And so now we can see that we have an extracted folder. And so we're going to go into that extracted folder. And then now we're going to do use uncompilely. On the exe file that was extracted. Or on the PyCompiler that was extracted. Oh, what did we miss? There you go. So we successfully decompile it, and we go ahead and look at it. So we have all this basically useless information, right? But what we do want to take a look at is this keylogger py file, right? So it was decompiled, and so now we're going to go ahead and just look at that. So now that we've been able, we've been able to decompile it, and we can see all of this. We're starting all the way up here. We're starting in the app directory, but log file. So it's going to put it in the app directory, which was the app data, and it's going to be putting all of our logs into this keylog.txt. Okay, so we can go ahead and go back to that. And what we can see right here so far that it is a keylogger is just look at the most basic functions being on press, right, handling key press events, and we're storing all of this. So let's go ahead and go back to our app where the exe file was stored. And we see keylog simulator, go in here, and we see 2 txt files. Just let me go and make sure that that we do end this. And we see this txt file. Oh, this is all of our keylogged information, all the way up until the point where we just ended it right now. So we can go ahead and copy all of this, or even we can just copy the file itself, and then go ahead and put it into the demo, but into where our AI agent will be. Go ahead and paste this, and now within the AI that we were able to create, going into AI keylogger, this is where we are going to be able to essentially train the AI based on the CSV file. And so the CSV file, as you can see, is pretty long length. All it is just a bunch of examples between for others, whether it's a username, it's a password, it's a URL. We're going to be able to train it off of that. And so we're going to train the AI model based off of all of that data, and then based off of that, it's going to go ahead and learn off of that to make decisions whether or not it's going to be able to learn off of that and feed them into the random forest machine learning model to be able to predict and automatically flag which tokens are likely passwords, usernames, websites, and then group them also into episodes. And these episodes are going to be like, whether if a username and a password follow a website, then it's more than likely also a username or password, right? And so we're going to go ahead and try that right now, and it takes into account how fast the tokens are inputted, and it's going to take in like the backspaces, the length, digits, symbols, all of them to be able to determine if it's an email, like a domain, or a username. And so we can go ahead and train it. Should have it already set. So we're just going to go ahead and run the file, and we're training it with the data set, and then we're going to output it into this file, joblib. Okay, and it just gives us some data regarding the actual joblib. And so we can and then now we can go ahead and predict. So here we go. We're going to predict, and using the example log, we're not going to use the example log. We're going to use the new log that we generated, which is called keylog.txt, or keylog. .txt, model create joblib threshold 0.5. Okay, so we go ahead and we got this return information. So this is all of the tokens classified, and then this is down here where we're gonna cipher through it. So we have likely websites. Okay, all of these have a probability of 1, so we were very confident that these are websites. Now see, some were entered double, and then likely usernames are these. Okay, now see, as we can see, it's not totally gonna get it correctly, because when seeing it, think about things that were that were placed without a tab, right? That were just automatically clicked, and the keylogger is not picking up the clicks, it's only picking up the actual keyboard input. And the important thing is we are clearly able to see the websites, clearly able to see the usernames, and these passwords. Now, as we see, this doesn't look like the password that we entered. This looks like a username and password entered, separating right here. Now, is this harmful? No, it just simply means that the AI needs a little bit more training, needs to get used to a little bit. If anything, it'd be the best thing to be able to start picking up trackpad movement, any mouse clicks, and then with the episodes, credential episodes down here, we are trying to track from most likely to see that from it after the user accessed this website, we were able to enter this username and this password. And so as we can see, this one worked. This one did not work because if you remember, I did misspell YouTube and I went back and I redid it. So sometimes it's being picked up twice, but then it did pick up the username and the password perfectly. Now coming down to UTEP, this is where it didn't pass it, right? And so if we come over here, this is why we don't want to exclude and ignore everything, because at the end of the day, AI is not perfect. It is prone to error as it is learning, yet we as humans are able to grasp the big idea here. And so if we're coming at this from the victim standpoint, if you're a victim and like we started from the beginning, you've noticed that this is running in the background and we're going to analyze it. If you start from there and then you're able to get up to this point, you realize this is where you're able to understand as the victim that my Gmail, so my email, my Google for YouTube, and then even my school UTEP were all compromised more than likely. So all of these more than likely are very compromised credentials that the attacker could have obtained. And so I should probably go ahead and change the password for these. Must I change the email? Not necessarily, but the password more than likely I change. And of course, from the attacker viewpoint, right, from the adversary's viewpoint, this is very easy, because if we're gonna cipher through all of these logs, there's so many lines, so much junk put in. Just look at these. There was cat, ls, key, all of this junk when we entered the terminal. We do not need that. Therefore, it is very clearly labeled as other. And that's very important. Is the most important thing is being able to cipher out through the junk and the important information. And that's exactly what this AI model is trained to do. Is it perfect? No. But is it able to obtain very important information? Yes. As we see, we're able to gather the sites that they were accessing, the emails, and the passwords. And in cases like this, where the UTEP did not capture, this is where it's as simple as the human going back and saying, hey, look, these are, as see, even the likely username picked it up, but we can see that the probability still, it's hitting that 50%, but it's not that high. And so if we come down to, if we are going to guess, if we wanted to attack and go into their UTEP email, we could assume that these are all correct. And then from there, just brute force our way. If this password was used up, this password is used up, we can go ahead and guess this password and separate it, matter of fact, if we wanted to. And so it's all about that mix between human and AI, knowing that AI is not going to be 100% correct, but that at the end of the day, it is them being efficient at separating the important, sensitive information from the useless information. Okay, so this is a summary just overall about how we were able to utilize an open source keylogger and then demonstrate how you can reverse engineer it to be able to gather what is important about that keylogger, and then upon that, accessing the log from the adversary's viewpoint and the victim's viewpoint, tearing it apart to be able to utilize machine learning into separating the sensitive information from the junk information. And overall, this is it. I hope this helped. Goodbye.